Imagine sitting down to a family dinner where a platter of cheeses is passed around the table. In many Western countries, that's a scene filled with comfort and tradition. Yet in Japan, especially among people over the age of 60, something curious happens. The cheese platter is often left untouched. This is not because cheese is completely foreign, but because experience and cultural wisdom have taught Japanese elders that some varieties, though delicious, may quietly undermine health as the body ages. The numbers tell a striking story. Japan has one of the lowest per capita cheese consumption rates in the developed world, yet it also boasts the longest life expectancy. While causation is never so simple, the habits behind these choices reveal hidden lessons. What looks like a harmless indulgence at 60 can, over the years, place quiet pressure on the heart, the gut, and the immune system. The paradox is that cheese contains calcium, protein, and sometimes beneficial bacteria, yet certain types carry risks that outweigh those benefits for older adults. This raises an intriguing question. Why do Japanese elders, known for their balanced approach to food, consciously skip 4 specific cheeses? These cheeses are not obscure. They are found in supermarkets and restaurants across the globe, often celebrated as delicacies. But behind their flavor hides a chemistry of salt, fat, mold, and additives that does not always sit well with a body navigating the natural shifts of aging. The promise here is simple but powerful. By the end of this journey, you will know exactly which 4 cheeses Japanese elders tend to avoid, why these cheeses can quietly erode health after 60, and what culturally inspired alternatives offer the same satisfaction without the hidden harm. You will not just gain a list of foods to limit, you will also see how traditional Japanese wisdom frames moderation, balance, and careful selection as keys to thriving in later years. Fear is a natural response when we hear about hidden dangers in everyday food, but this is not a message of deprivation. Instead, it is one of empowerment. The knowledge you will carry away allows you to enjoy food with confidence, to spot the pitfalls that others overlook, and to build habits that protect your future health. The Japanese example shows that small, mindful choices about what to skip can add years of vitality. Do you reach for the same cheese every week? Do you recall a time when your body reacted differently to a food you once loved? These personal reflections matter because change is not about rigid rules. It is about recognizing patterns that no longer serve you. And before we move forward, let me invite you to share. What country are you reading from, and how often do you eat cheese? Your perspective helps us see how these lessons apply across cultures. With that in mind, let's step into the world of Japanese dietary tradition and uncover the cultural and scientific reasons why 4 cheeses lose their place on the table after 60. To understand why certain cheeses disappear from the plates of older Japanese adults, we need to look first at the broader picture of the Japanese diet. For centuries, the culinary traditions of Japan revolved around rice, fish, vegetables, seaweed, and a variety of fermented soy products. Dairy, including cheese, barely appeared in the daily meals of the population. This absence was not accidental. It reflected both the agricultural environment of the islands and the way Japanese bodies adapted to a low-dairy lifestyle. Fermentation, however, has always played a starring role in Japanese cuisine. Foods like miso, natto, soy sauce, and pickled vegetables provide beneficial bacteria that support digestion and immunity. The culture learned to draw health from fermentation without needing milk-based products. By the time dairy entered Japan in the late 19th and 20th centuries, the habits of a largely lactose-intolerant population were already set. Cheese became more accessible with globalization, but it never claimed the same place it holds in Western diets. For older adults, this cultural backdrop is crucial. Japanese elders often continue to favor foods that are lighter on the stomach and rich in natural probiotics. Their meals lean on fish, tofu, and vegetables rather than heavy dairy products. When cheese is present, it tends to be in modest amounts, and even then, choices are careful. Unlike the Western idea of pairing a wine with a platter of rich aged cheeses, a Japanese meal might highlight the delicate flavor of fresh tofu or the umami of miso soup. This contrast between West and East is more than cultural preference. It reflects biology. Many East Asians, including Japanese, have reduced levels of lactase, the enzyme needed to digest lactose in dairy products. While some cheeses contain little lactose due to aging, the fats, salts, and molds still pose challenges. As the body ages and digestion slows, those challenges become even more pronounced. Thus, what feels like a flavorful treat in one culture may feel like a digestive burden in another. Modernization has, of course, shifted eating habits. Younger generations in Japan consume more Western-style foods, including dairy. Supermarkets stock Parmesan, brie, and processed cheese slices alongside natto and miso paste. Yet when you observe older Japanese adults, especially those mindful of their health, patterns emerge. They may experiment with cheese, but they quickly recognize which varieties cause bloating, heaviness, or discomfort, and they adjust accordingly. Their wisdom lies in listening to the body and respecting its limits, a principle that guides much of traditional Japanese health practice. The lesson here is not that cheese is forbidden, but that cultural habits reveal a kind of built-in protection. By consuming little cheese overall, Japanese elders naturally avoid the risks tied to high fat, high salt, and highly processed varieties. They rely instead on foods that support gut balance, reduce inflammation, and provide nutrients without unnecessary strain. This sets the stage for the next part of our exploration. If the Japanese diet and biology explain why cheese has always been secondary, the natural process of aging explains why certain cheeses become particularly harmful after 60. Let us now examine how the aging body changes, and why those changes make 4 types of cheese especially risky. As the body crosses into the 6th decade of life, subtle but important transformations begin to unfold in digestion and metabolism. These changes may not be immediately obvious, but they significantly influence how foods are processed and tolerated. Understanding these shifts is essential to appreciating why certain cheeses become less suitable after 60. One of the most notable changes is the gradual decline in enzyme production. The stomach produces less acid, and the pancreas releases fewer digestive enzymes, making it harder to break down fats and proteins efficiently. For a younger person, a slice of rich cheese might pass unnoticed through the digestive system, but for someone older, it can linger, causing bloating, discomfort, or indigestion. Cheese, being dense in both protein and fat, often becomes a challenge for this reason. Another common factor is lactose intolerance. Even though many cheeses contain little lactose, the body's reduced lactase production with age means that even trace amounts can create discomfort for sensitive individuals. Symptoms such as gas, cramps, or diarrhea may appear unexpectedly, leading many older adults to avoid dairy altogether. For Japanese elders, who already have higher baseline rates of lactose intolerance, this is a particularly strong motivator to skip certain cheeses. Beyond digestion, cardiovascular health enters the picture. After 60, arteries may stiffen, blood pressure often rises, and the risk of heart disease increases. High intake of saturated fats and cholesterol, abundant in creamy and aged cheeses, can accelerate these risks. A few indulgences might not seem dangerous, but the cumulative effect of regular consumption adds quiet strain on the circulatory system. Japanese dietary traditions, with their emphasis on fish rich in omega-3 fatty acids and plant-based foods, naturally reduce these burdens. Salt is another hidden challenge. With age, kidneys become less efficient at filtering sodium, and high salt intake can lead to fluid retention, swelling, and increased blood pressure. Aged cheeses, celebrated for their concentrated flavor, often pack sodium levels that far exceed what an older body can comfortably handle. For an elder already managing hypertension or taking diuretics, the risks compound quickly. The immune system also plays a role. As we grow older, immune defenses weaken, and inflammatory processes tend to increase. Cheeses that contain mold, additives, or artificial preservatives may trigger immune responses or worsen inflammation, contributing to joint stiffness, fatigue, or other chronic complaints. What once was simply a bold flavor may now carry unintended consequences for overall well-being. Taken together, these biological changes illustrate why foods that seemed harmless at 40 can become problematic at 60. It's not that cheese transforms into poison, but rather that the aging body grows less forgiving. Japanese elders, with their cultural inclination toward moderation and their awareness of bodily cues, adapt by avoiding the cheeses most likely to create trouble. This brings us to the first of those cheeses. Rich in history and admired for its bold taste, it is also one of the most problematic for older adults: aged blue cheese. Among all the cheeses admired for their strong character, aged blue cheese stands out as both a culinary treasure and a hidden challenge. Its marbled appearance, streaked with veins of blue or green mold, signals a fermentation process that delivers sharp flavor and distinct aroma. For many enthusiasts, this is exactly what makes it irresistible. Yet for older adults, and particularly in Japan where balance and moderation guide dietary choices, blue cheese is often the first to be left behind. The problem begins with what gives blue cheese its identity: the mold cultures used during aging. While generally safe for younger and healthier populations, these molds can release compounds such as histamines and, in some cases, trace mycotoxins. Histamines are naturally occurring chemicals that, when consumed in excess, may trigger headaches, flushing, or digestive upset. In older adults with slower metabolic clearance, the effects can be more pronounced, leaving them feeling heavy, fatigued, or unwell after eating even small amounts. Beyond histamines, the richness of blue cheese adds another layer of risk. It is dense in saturated fat and sodium, both of which strain the systems already vulnerable with age. High-fat foods can slow digestion further, compounding bloating or discomfort. Meanwhile, the salt concentration, intensified during the aging process, poses challenges to blood pressure control and kidney function. For individuals managing hypertension, this can quietly undermine the stability achieved through medication or careful diet. Scientific studies have begun to highlight the connection between aged cheeses and histamine intolerance, a condition that often surfaces later in life. Research has also shown links between high sodium intake and increased cardiovascular risk in older populations. While blue cheese is not inherently toxic, these findings explain why cultures such as Japan, where life expectancy is among the highest in the world, approach it with caution, especially past 60. From the perspective of Japanese wisdom, foods that are excessively aged, overly pungent, or artificially manipulated are seen as disruptive to the body's harmony. Instead, balance is sought through fresh, lightly fermented items like miso or natto, which provide probiotics without overwhelming the system. In this sense, skipping blue cheese aligns with a broader philosophy of consuming foods that support rather than challenge natural equilibrium. Of course, for those who love the flavor of blue cheese, total elimination may feel daunting. Moderation, portion control, or choosing milder varieties can reduce the risks. Pairing with fresh vegetables or consuming it occasionally rather than regularly can also help. Yet the central lesson remains. After 60, the body's tolerance narrows, and foods once tolerated with ease can become stealthy obstacles to comfort and health. With blue cheese addressed as the first cautionary item, the next step is to examine another group of cheeses celebrated for their indulgence and creamy luxury. These cheeses are admired worldwide for their rich, buttery texture, but carry hidden risks that intensify with age. Few foods embody indulgence like triple cream cheeses and their cousins, brie and camembert. Soft, buttery, and decadent, these cheeses are celebrated across Europe and beyond for their velvety texture and delicate rind. At first bite, they melt on the tongue, offering a richness that feels both elegant and comforting. But for older adults, this very creaminess conceals dangers that are easy to overlook. In Japan, where moderation is valued, such cheeses rarely find a place in the diets of those over 60. The defining feature of triple cream cheese is its exceptionally high fat content. By law, these cheeses must contain at least 75% butterfat in the dry matter, making them among the richest dairy products available. While this fat creates the smooth, luscious taste, it also brings concentrated saturated fats and calories. For someone over 60, whose metabolism naturally slows, these nutrients can accumulate quickly, contributing to weight gain, arterial stiffness, and higher cholesterol. Over time, the indulgence transforms into a quiet stress on the cardiovascular system. Cardiovascular health is a particularly sensitive issue for aging populations. Studies have consistently linked diets high in saturated fat with elevated risk of heart disease, especially when combined with other common factors of aging, such as reduced physical activity or pre-existing hypertension. For older adults in Japan, who traditionally consume lighter proteins from fish and soy, the heavy profile of triple cream cheeses stands in stark contrast to the foods that support their longevity. Digestive comfort is another concern. The richness of these cheeses means they require more bile and enzymes to break down, something that decreases with age. For many seniors, this leads to sensations of fullness, sluggishness, or gastrointestinal discomfort long after a meal has ended. While such effects might feel mild at first, repeated strain on the digestive system can contribute to reduced appetite or nutritional imbalances, since one heavy food crowds out the space for other, more beneficial items. Japanese elders tend to prioritize foods that are both nourishing and easy on the stomach. Instead of creamy cheeses, they may turn to tofu, which provides protein without excess fat, or natto, which supplies probiotics and vitamin K2 to support bone and cardiovascular health. This cultural instinct highlights an important lesson. The foods we enjoy should not only please the palate, but also respect the body's changing needs with age. Still, it is worth noting that occasional indulgence in brie or camembert is unlikely to cause immediate harm. The issue arises when such cheeses are eaten frequently or in large amounts. Portion control, pairing with fresh vegetables, or reserving these cheeses for rare celebrations can reduce the risks. The guiding principle, drawn from Japanese wisdom, is balance, choosing lighter, nourishing foods most of the time, and saving richer options for truly special occasions. Having uncovered the hidden weight of triple cream cheeses, we now turn to another category that presents an equally serious challenge. Unlike the buttery richness of brie or camembert, this next group is known for its sharp, salty bite, an attribute that can be especially dangerous after 60. Hard-aged cheeses hold a special place in global cuisine. Parmesan grated over pasta, a slice of sharp cheddar with bread, or a cube of pecorino on a platter. These flavors are familiar and comforting. Their intensity comes from the long aging process, which concentrates both flavor and nutrients. Yet for older adults, this very concentration brings with it a set of risks that often go unnoticed. In Japan, where meals emphasize balance and restraint, cheeses with excessive salt and density rarely remain on the menu past 60. The first concern is sodium. During the aging process, salt is used not only for flavor but also as a preservative to control bacterial growth. Over months or even years, the cheese loses moisture, and the sodium becomes highly concentrated. A single ounce of Parmesan, for example, can contain over 400 milligrams of sodium. For someone advised to limit daily intake to 1,500 milligrams or less, a common recommendation for people with high blood pressure, that single portion represents a significant fraction of the allowance. High sodium intake has well-documented effects on the aging body. It raises blood pressure, increases fluid retention, and puts extra strain on the kidneys. For older adults whose renal function naturally declines, this burden can lead to swelling in the legs, shortness of breath, or even complications with medications such as diuretics. What feels like a flavorful addition to a meal may in reality push the body toward imbalance. Beyond sodium, aged hard cheeses are also dense in saturated fats. While not as extreme as triple cream varieties, their compactness means that even small servings deliver a heavy dose of calories and cholesterol. For older adults trying to manage weight, blood lipid levels, or heart health, these factors add another layer of hidden risk. Japanese dietary habits, rich in fish, vegetables, and low-sodium seasonings like kombu broth, stand as a sharp contrast to the heavy salt and fat profile of aged cheeses. Another subtle challenge lies in their digestibility. Hard cheeses are tough and dry, requiring more chewing and producing a heavier digestive load. In an aging digestive system already slowing in motility, this can lead to discomfort or prolonged satiety that displaces lighter, nutrient-rich foods. While cheese may feel satisfying in the moment, it can interfere with the variety and balance needed for long-term health. This does not mean that aged hard cheeses must be eliminated entirely. Moderation remains key. Thin slices instead of thick wedges, occasional sprinklings rather than daily use, and pairing with fresh vegetables or whole grains can help reduce the strain. Some producers also offer lower sodium alternatives, though these remain less common. The Japanese example suggests a useful path. Enjoy the essence of flavor without letting excess dominate the diet. As we consider the hidden salt and fat within hard-aged cheeses, another category waits for our attention. One that does not rely on tradition or craft, but rather on convenience and industry. Processed cheeses and spreads, often marketed as simple and affordable, carry risks that may be even more concerning for those over 60. Processed cheese, with its smooth texture and uniform slices, was designed to be convenient. Packaged in bright wrappers or sold as spreads in jars, it is marketed as an easy, affordable alternative to traditional cheeses. For busy families, it often becomes a quick fix for sandwiches, snacks, or even children's lunches. Yet beneath the appealing surface lies a product far removed from the natural process of cheesemaking. And for older adults, the risks it carries can be particularly troubling. Unlike artisanal cheeses that rely on milk, cultures, and time, processed cheeses are manufactured with emulsifiers, stabilizers, flavor enhancers, and artificial colorings. These additives allow them to melt smoothly, resist spoilage, and maintain consistency on supermarket shelves. While such features make them popular in fast food and packaged meals, they also mean that what appears to be cheese is often a mixture of dairy byproducts, oils, and chemicals that the body does not process as easily. One of the greatest concerns for seniors is the sodium content. Processed cheeses are among the saltiest options in the dairy aisle, often surpassing even aged hard cheeses.
Excess sodium raises blood pressure and strains the kidneys, both of which are already vulnerable after 60. For someone managing hypertension or heart disease, a daily habit of processed slices or spreads quietly undermines treatment efforts. Fat quality presents another hidden danger. Many processed cheeses contain hydrogenated oils or trans fats, ingredients added to improve texture and shelf life. These fats are known to raise bad cholesterol and lower good cholesterol, accelerating the risk of heart disease. For an older adult whose cardiovascular system may already be compromised, this is a serious concern. Unlike natural dairy fats, these industrial additions bring no benefit, only risk. Additives also introduce uncertainties. Artificial colorings, preservatives, and emulsifiers may irritate sensitive digestive systems or interact poorly with medications. While younger bodies may tolerate such compounds, older adults with slower metabolism and weaker immunity often notice discomfort, bloating, or inflammatory reactions. Japanese dietary traditions, with their preference for minimally processed foods, provide a sharp counterpoint. Elders there rely on whole, recognizable ingredients, trusting their health to simplicity rather than synthetic shortcuts. The appeal of processed cheese lies in its affordability and accessibility. It is easy to slice, melt, or spread, making it a staple in many homes worldwide. Yet this very accessibility encourages overconsumption. A slice here, a snack there, and suddenly sodium, unhealthy fats, and chemical additives accumulate in amounts far exceeding safe limits. For an older body already managing multiple health concerns, this pattern can quietly accelerate decline. The lesson from Japanese wisdom is not only to skip processed cheese, but to rethink the role of convenience in the diet. Choosing real, whole foods, even in smaller portions, offers nourishment without hidden costs. For those who still enjoy the creamy texture of cheese, selecting natural varieties in moderation, or turning to plant-based spreads made from simple ingredients, can provide safer satisfaction. Having now explored the 4 main categories of cheese that Japanese elders often avoid, it is time to step back and examine what unites them. Beneath their differences lie common mechanisms that explain why they become problematic after 60. Though the 4 cheeses we have examined, blue cheese, triple cream varieties, aged hard cheeses, and processed spreads, seem very different on the surface, they share underlying characteristics that explain why older Japanese adults approach them with caution. Understanding these common threads reveals not just why these cheeses pose risks, but also how aging magnifies their effects. The first unifying element is excess. Each of these cheeses contains an intensified version of something the aging body struggles with: salt, fat, additives, or microbial byproducts. In youth, the body often compensates for such challenges,
processing heavy meals or chemical additives with resilience. After 60, however, reduced enzyme activity, slower circulation, and more fragile kidneys and livers make it harder to buffer these loads. What was once manageable becomes a source of hidden strain. Salt is perhaps the clearest example. Whether concentrated through aging or artificially added during processing, sodium places direct pressure on blood vessels and kidneys. For elders managing hypertension or taking medications like diuretics, high salt intake can undo the very benefits of treatment. This is why Japan's traditional approach, which limits salt by using natural umami sources such as kombu, bonito, or miso in moderation, aligns so well with longevity. Fat, especially saturated and trans fats, is another shared challenge. Triple cream cheeses overwhelm the body with richness. Aged cheeses condense fat into small servings, and processed cheeses often include industrial oils. Excessive intake elevates cholesterol, stiffens arteries, and fuels inflammation. For older adults, these effects add to existing cardiovascular risks. Japanese diets, in contrast, balance fat intake with omega-3 rich fish, soy products, and modest amounts of plant oils, keeping the system flexible and responsive. Histamines and additives form a third thread. Aged cheeses, like blue varieties, produce histamines during fermentation, while processed cheeses introduce synthetic stabilizers and preservatives. Both can irritate digestion, trigger immune responses, or worsen inflammation. Seniors whose immune systems are less adaptive are particularly susceptible. By comparison, Japanese fermented foods such as natto or miso supply probiotics and bioactive compounds that support gut and immune health rather than challenge it. Another crucial theme is medication interaction. Many older adults rely on prescriptions for blood pressure, cholesterol, or diabetes. High sodium, unhealthy fats, or additives can interfere with these treatments, reducing effectiveness or causing side effects. Traditional Japanese wisdom implicitly guards against this problem by promoting meals built from simple, natural foods that harmonize rather than conflict with medical care. Finally, all four cheeses highlight the importance of moderation. The Japanese principle of harahachi-bu, or eating until 80% full, reflects an instinct to avoid overloading the body. This principle extends naturally to avoiding foods that concentrate potential harms. Rather than relying on rules or prohibitions, Japanese elders practice balance, choosing lighter, simpler options most of the time, and leaving risky indulgences aside. With the hidden mechanisms now clear, the next question becomes practical. If these cheeses carry risks, what alternatives exist? The answer lies in exploring Japanese-inspired substitutes and strategies that allow older adults to enjoy satisfying meals while protecting long-term health. Knowing which cheeses to avoid is only part of the story. Equally important is understanding what can take their place, providing both enjoyment and nourishment without hidden harm. Here, Japanese food culture offers a wealth of inspiration. Rather than focusing on deprivation, it emphasizes balance, substitution, and mindful consumption. For older adults, these strategies create a path to maintain pleasure in eating while safeguarding health. One option is to seek lighter dairy alternatives. In Japan, cheese is often consumed in modest amounts or replaced with softer, fresher varieties that are easier to digest. Cottage cheese or ricotta, for example, contain less fat and salt than aged or triple cream cheeses, making them more manageable for the aging digestive system. Fresh mozzarella, with its mild taste and lower sodium content, can also be a gentler alternative. These options allow for variety without overwhelming the body. Beyond dairy, Japan provides examples of plant-based substitutes that align with the principle of balance. Tofu, a cornerstone of the Japanese diet, offers protein without saturated fat or cholesterol. Its versatility makes it suitable for both savory and sweet dishes. Natto, though polarizing in flavor, supplies probiotics and vitamin K2, which support both gut and bone health, two areas of concern after 60. Miso, another fermented soy product, brings umami depth to meals without the need for heavy cheese toppings. Fermented foods in general deserve special attention. Where aged cheeses may burden the system with histamines or excess salt, Japanese fermented staples work to restore equilibrium. They enhance digestion, regulate the microbiome, and support immunity. By incorporating foods like pickled vegetables, tempeh, or miso soup, older adults can capture the comforting qualities of fermentation while avoiding the downsides of certain cheeses. Practical strategies also help reduce risk. Portion control is central. Even if someone chooses to eat cheese occasionally, keeping servings small minimizes the strain on digestion and circulation. Pairing cheese with high-fiber vegetables, whole grains, or fresh fruit further balances its impact. In Japanese meals, dishes are often served in small bowls or plates, encouraging moderation and variety rather than overindulgence in a single rich item. Daily rituals provide another model. A typical Japanese Elder's Day might begin with a breakfast of rice, miso soup, and grilled fish, continue with a lunch of vegetables and tofu, and end with a light dinner centered on balance rather than heaviness. Within this framework, cheese either disappears entirely or appears in very small, deliberate portions. This contrasts sharply with Western habits where cheese may dominate sandwiches, pizzas, or snacks multiple times a day. The goal is not to eliminate pleasure but to reframe it. By shifting toward foods that respect the body's changing needs, older adults can enjoy meals without the quiet anxieties that come from hidden risks. Japanese wisdom shows that satisfaction lies not in richness, but in harmony, and that simple, mindful choices build a foundation for lasting vitality. With these alternatives and strategies in place, one final step remains. To draw together the lessons of this journey, highlight the 4 cheeses to skip, and leave with a message of empowerment for the years ahead. We have now traced a path from curiosity to clarity. Along the way, we uncovered the 4 types of cheese that Japanese elders often skip after 60. The mold-rich blue cheeses, the indulgent triple cream varieties like brie and camembert, the salty aged hard cheeses such as Parmesan and cheddar, and the ultra-processed spreads and slices that dominate supermarket shelves. Each of these brings its own appeal, yet each also hides risks that grow sharper with age. Histamines and mold, heavy saturated fats, concentrated sodium, and artificial additives. The lesson is not one of fear, but of awareness. What the Japanese example teaches us is that food choices are not static. They evolve as our bodies change. The very meals that delighted us in youth may require adjustment in later years. By honoring those changes as Japanese elders do, we support the body rather than work against it. Longevity is not an accident. It is the outcome of countless small, thoughtful decisions made day after day. This message of adaptation resonates with a deeper truth. Balance sustains vitality. In Japan, elders thrive not by clinging to every tradition or rejecting all foreign foods, but by practicing discernment. They choose fresh, light, and minimally processed items, embracing fermented foods that aid digestion and skipping those that burden it. By applying these same principles, anyone, regardless of culture, can adjust their diet to promote health well into later life. Practical alternatives are always within reach. Instead of blue cheese, one might enjoy probiotic-rich miso or yogurt. Instead of triple cream indulgence, fresh tofu or mozzarella offers gentleness. Instead of salty Parmesan, a sprinkle of sesame seeds or seaweed can deliver flavor without sodium overload. Instead of processed cheese slices, a handful of edamame provides both protein and satisfaction. The Japanese wisdom is simple. Food should serve the body's needs, not demand a price from it. The hope here is clear. By learning from the choices of Japanese elders, you can begin today to shape your own path toward healthier aging. It does not require drastic measures, just attentiveness, moderation, and the courage to make substitutions where necessary. Each meal becomes an opportunity to invest in future vitality, to reduce the quiet risks that accumulate over time, and to embrace foods that harmonize with your changing physiology. Now it is your turn to reflect. Which of these cheeses do you still enjoy? And have you noticed any changes in how your body reacts to them? Share your experience, your age, and your perspective, because the more stories we gather, the more we learn together. This conversation builds community, and in that community lies encouragement and strength. Thank you for joining this journey into Japanese wisdom and the hidden truths of cheese after 60. If you found these insights valuable, take a moment to share, subscribe, and pass them along to someone who could benefit. And when you are ready for the next step, look ahead. Our next exploration will uncover another surprising tradition Japanese elders follow to protect their health well into their 70s and beyond.